Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my Witch-A-Thon wrap-up. I just want to show you guys two really cool things that have recently been given to me, and I am just so thankful and grateful, and they're kind of different kind of items. So one of my new aunties, she recently gave me these gloves because I mentioned that my hands get cold when I write on cooler days, because I can wrap myself up, but my hands maybe get cold sometimes. So she bought me these amazing gloves, and they are black with white writing, and the writing is actually The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And on this one, as you can see, there is a huge raven, which is really cool. The second cool thing is that my husband got me this best snow globe of all time, and if you don't think that this is the coolest snow globe, then just get out. So it's like this, it has a raven on a skull in it, and all of the little things that fly around are black dots and also bats. It's staying up on my shelves all year round. He bought it for me in the Halloween section, but like, love so much. So BRB while I put it in my shelves. Okay, now that I showed you guys my two cool things, I am gonna get into the wrap up for today. So this is wrapping up the Witch-A-Thon. So reading went a little differently than I thought. I had some switcheroonies, and we'll just get into it. So the first book I want to talk about I read for the Fire Challenge, and this is Poe. This is a collection of his stories and poems, and they are illustrated. So to be quite frank, I'm not like a huge fan of this illustration style. It's just not really my thing. But I was glad to read more of his stories that I hadn't read before. A few in particular were quite jarring, especially since I read them before bed. So if you like Poe, this would be something to pick up. This was in the kids graphic novel section, I think, and I gave it 3.5 stars overall. So the next book I want to talk about, I also gave 3.5 stars, and it is Gris Grimley's Frankenstein. So this is a reimagining of Frankenstein where he has illustrated sections, and it's really cool because it's kind of like horror steampunk, if that makes sense at all. And it is very dark, but for instance, all of the illustrations are in steampunk style, and I really liked that about it, but there's no holding back. It's quite scary illustrations sometimes. This one I did really like the illustration style. However, I had a bit of a problem with the formatting. So a lot of the book is told in epistolary format where they're exchanging letters, and this is how it's written. And I found it quite hard to move between reading something as fluid as this, where it's quite easy to read, to this, which is quite compact and quite hard. So it felt a little jarring to me, and also I think that I was a little Frankensteined out because I had recently read a few other Frankenstein retellings, which I liked kind of more than this one. Oh god, so I could already feel the comments. Please don't be mad at me. So the next book, which is again 3.5 stars, is Gideon the Ninth. I'm just gonna say it, Gideon the Ninth. Okay, so I didn't love Gideon the Ninth as much as all of the hype has led me to believe I would like it. So it's blurbed as lesbian necromancers in space, and I take issue with two of those three things. Lesbian part, barely any. Necromancy, yes there was. In space, not really. So it is set technically in space, but you don't even realize it because all of the action takes place in the castle, so there's nothing really about space in the story. So I felt misled on two of those three like word choices. So Gideon is basically attending with his childhood nemesis to go through this trial so that the nemesis can become one of the high people to the god of the realm, essentially. So they're in this castle and they're trying to figure out these challenges, different challenges and stuff. Man, was it so slow, like so slow. So some of the reasons why I didn't like it that much was that the first half of the book was painfully slow. The reason that I did actually finish it was because it was the group read. If this had been a read I had just picked up on my own, it might have easily been a DNF. Also, my husband had read it and he told me to keep reading, so I did. The other point is that I didn't love the writing style. So the writing style, I thought, had a sloppy use of repeated adjectives. I also thought that there was poor description of each scene and like the setting. So it's like watching the story through a very narrow lens, and I got really frustrated that things weren't explained as much as I wanted them to be, and I thought that maybe in the beginning it was going to be revealed later, like it was intentional, but then I was like, no, I think this is just the writing style. Didn't really love that much, but the reason that it does get 3.5 stars is because once the action did kick off, like essentially once people started dying, then I was intrigued. Then I was like, okay, I want to see what happens. But for a large part of it, I was severely annoyed, and then at the end, it felt like that. So very much like, I didn't agree with certain things that happened, but then when I was talking with my husband about it, I think the reason that some events happened is to set up something that will be in like the next book, or that I think will be in the next book. Also, what a letdown when we finally meet like the god of the realms. Like, okay, sure. So I gave it 3.5 stars. I was not in love with it. So the next one that I also give 3.5 stars is The Dark Wife by Sarah Diemer. This has been on my most anticipated books of all time to read forever. It is a lesbian retelling of the Hades-Persephone Greek myth, where Hades essentially captures Persephone, brings her down to the underworld. Her mother Demeter is grieving, that's how we get the change in seasons, and Persephone has to spend half her time down in the underworld because she ate one pomegranate seed, and the other half up on Earth during spring and summer. So this reimagines the narrative, and I liked a lot of things about it, and I also disliked a lot of things about it. So I was really at war, because the things that I think were really good, and the things that annoyed me really annoyed me. So, let's talk about the good things first. So, I just love the myth, first off, straight off. Like, the Hades-Persephone retelling, I'm just always here for. I also really appreciated how this story is told through the lens of kind of the patriarchy, and how Zeus is a colossal a-hole, and he treats everyone terribly, and that he doesn't deserve mercy, and that, like, he has led through selfishness to all of these different things, and he's hurt so many different people. And I think that it does an extremely amazing job exploring the trauma that different characters feel through his callous actions. So I think it spent a long time developing that, and that was an excellent, super strong point for me. On the flip side, okay, the romance felt so insta-lovey to me. And I know it technically isn't, because there was a line that's like, oh, things move faster in the underworld. It's been 6 months. But like, to the main character, it felt like a few days. And I'm like, we have seen them together only a handful of times. So to us, it feels like a few days. Even if they're telling me it's been 6 months, I still don't feel like I've seen them develop enough, if that makes sense. So I wish that we had seen more scenes of them together. And again, some really strong elements in here are problem solving, and also choosing forgiveness over anger, and like working together rather than fighting against, if that makes sense. So loved that. And then just some of the stuff that I didn't like, at certain times the writing was repetitive and I thought a little bit sloppy, but then also other things I liked was like some of the different characters in here. Like Cerberus starts out as a puppy, and oh my god, I'm dying. Some of the other things that I didn't like in here was that I thought that the main character and also Hades could have been more fully developed. Like, I wish that they had just been a little more fully developed as people, I thought. But overall, I give it 3.5. And I do actually recommend it, because I think if you don't mind insta-love, this may be like a true 4.5, 5-star read for you. I really hate insta-love with like every fiber of my being. So it was a little bit of a problem, but overall I did really enjoy it, and I read it really fast. I read it in one sitting, so. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the Dark Wife was for the Pantheon challenge, and then the next challenge is for the Dark and Twisted challenge, which I am being a bit of a rule bender and taking that literally. So I read a nonfiction guide to bats. They are most often dark, and when they sleep they're always twisted because they twist up in themselves. So I actually really love bats. I have a fondness for animals that are maligned by most people. Like, I really love bats, snakes, and bees, they're hated by like everyone, but like, why? Actually, those animals are so charming. There are so many things in this book that like I didn't know and that I was like, wow, bats are very cool. For instance, echolocation, right? So humans have sonar from essentially learning about echolocation from bats. And in order to calculate sonar, you send out and then you wait until you get the response and then you calculate the math for the distance. Bats do it like instantaneously. They are little like flying supercomputer calculators, which is awesome. Something else I didn't consider was when they're talking about saving different species. If species reach below a certain threshold, then the caves that they're in, if they don't have enough members of that colony, the cave actually isn't warm enough to keep the young warm, so then their younger generations will die. So then this book is saying like they might be like ecologically redundant because they are already at the below the threshold where they could recover. So instead they should put funds towards colonies which are still part of the ecosystem and still kind of like matter. It's harsh, but it's like a point of view that I've never considered before. There are over 1,500 different bat species which are explored with pictures and they tell you about them. Honestly, I didn't read all about every single bat. I flipped through and looked at the pictures. And I just wanted to share some with you. Like, how adorable is that bat? It is so cute. And then there's bats like these, which looks like little pigs. They look like little piglets. They are just so cute. And then there's also some horror show bats. Like, if you look at this and you don't think that these look like crazy, freaky animals that would be in like a labyrinth somewhere, you're totally lying. These look very scary. So I just like seeing all the different kind of bats. It was really cool, honestly, and I highly recommend it. And I gave it 4 stars because as I was reading like the beginning part, I kept stopping and being to my husband like, hey, did you know this about bats? Hey, did you know this about bats? So yeah, it was pretty cool. Okay, and the last books that I want to talk about today are in a series and they're illustrated graphic novels. So these are The Girl from the Other Side by Nagabe. Now, these are really good. I give it 4 stars. Of the 4 volumes that I read, 3 I gave 4, 1 I gave 3.5. And we are in a world where there are 2 sides, basically. There's outside and inside. So the outsiders have a curse where if they are touched by an outsider, which is essentially like a demon form, then they contract the curse and they turn into these demon animals which lose feeling and forget their memories. So on the inside are the humans, which are scared of the outsiders and the curse and basically kill anyone that they think is an outsider outside of the walls. And when we open, we're following a tiny little girl and her outsider companion who's taking care of her. You soon learn that the girl has been abandoned because the people that were with her had been cursed and killed. And he has been taking care of her since that time. Now, I did not expect this book to get me in the feels as much as it did, but it's like this little girl and this huge kind of like friendly demon pairing that just like got me in the feels so much, and I will definitely be continuing on in the series. I don't want to talk about any spoilers after that first volume that I talked about because some of the things just, oh man, made me cry. Yeah, real sad. I also love the illustration style. It's very simple, but I really love it. So I highly recommend this series. It's beautiful, it's stunning, and it has, I think, a really good message. And I just can't wait to read more. The last part of Witch-A-Thon wrap up is sharing a picture of me from Halloween. So we threw a huge Halloween party, but because we were prepping for it, baking for it, setting up, and everything like that, we actually forgot to take pictures of our party. So we only have pictures of us after the party, like when we were cleaning up. So here we are. I was Sabrina from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and my husband was Harvey. And it was so much fun. We love Halloween so, so much. And I cannot wait for next year. So if you guys liked this video, please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe. That would be awesome. And I will chat to you guys in another video soon.